There's a moment in medicine that changes you forever. The moment you look at a family and tell them their loved one is gone, brain dead, no chance of recovery. And you believe it. You've done all the tests, you've followed all the protocols, you're certain. I'm Dr. Michael. And on November 7th, 2023, at exactly 11:15 p.m., I declared Thomas Reed brain dead. I was wrong. Not about the tests. Those were correct. But about what was happening inside his brain during the 32 minutes that followed. This is the story that made me question everything we think we know about death, consciousness, and the terrifying possibility that some patients might be aware as we prepare to take their organs. Before we begin this case that haunts me still, I want to ask something. This channel exists because you believe some medical stories need to be told, even when they're uncomfortable. If you value these deeper investigations into the mysteries of consciousness and death, please subscribe and hit that like button. Your support allows me to keep sharing cases that challenge our understanding of life itself. Thank you for being part of this journey. November 7th. Thomas Reed, 38 years old, software engineer from Seattle, collapsed at his desk at 4:30 p.m. Massive hemorrhagic stroke. His coworkers called 911 immediately. Paramedics arrived within 6 minutes. He was unconscious but breathing. Rushed to Harborview Medical Center. By the time he reached our ER at 5:07 p.m., he was in deep coma. CT scan showed catastrophic bleeding in his brainstem and both hemispheres. The kind of stroke that's almost always fatal. We intubated him, put him on a ventilator, transferred to ICU. But over the next 6 hours, his brain swelling increased despite maximum medical intervention. By 10 p.m., he showed no response to any stimuli, no reflexes. Pupils fixed and dilated. At 11 p.m., I performed the formal brain death examination. This isn't something we do lightly. It's a comprehensive protocol. I tested for corneal reflexes. Nothing. Tested gag reflex. Nothing. Tested response to pain. Nothing. Did the apnea test, where we disconnect the ventilator to see if the brainstem will trigger breathing on its own. Thomas didn't take a single breath. His CO2 levels rose, but his brain didn't respond. Finally, I reviewed the EEG. Completely flat. No electrical activity whatsoever. At 11:15 p.m., I made the declaration. Thomas Reed was legally brain dead. His heart was still beating, but only because the ventilator was breathing for him and medications were supporting his blood pressure. The person who was Thomas was gone. That's what every test told me. That's what 30 years of medical training told me. That's what I told his wife, Rebecca, at 11:17 p.m. Rebecca Reed sat in that small consultation room, her hands shaking, her eyes red from crying but somehow still dry, like she'd run out of tears hours ago. Her sister Emma sat beside her holding her hand. I explained what brain death means, that Thomas's brain had suffered irreversible damage, that he would never wake up, never breathe on his own, never be aware again, that the machines were keeping his heart beating but they were supporting a body whose brain had died. I've had this conversation more times than I can count. It never gets easier. But I'm always honest, always clear. Because families deserve the truth. Rebecca asked the question they always ask. Are you absolutely certain? Is there any chance? I told her what I believe to be true. I'm certain. We've done every test. Thomas is gone. I'm so deeply sorry. She nodded slowly. Then she said something that showed incredible strength and unbearable pain. Thomas was an organ donor. He had it on his driver's license. He told me once, after his father died, that if anything ever happened to him, he'd want to help people. Can we do that? Can his organs help someone? This is the conversation that gives meaning to tragedy. Organ donation, the chance for death to save lives. Thomas's heart could save someone in heart failure. His lungs could let someone breathe again. His liver, kidneys, pancreas could give years of life to people who were running out of time. I told Rebecca yes, we could honor Thomas's wish. She signed the consent forms at 11:20 p.m. The organ procurement team was already on standby. Protocol requires we move quickly once brain death is declared. Organs deteriorate rapidly without blood flow. We had a narrow window. But there was one unusual element that night. Dr. Sarah Chen, a neuroscience researcher from the University of Washington, was in our ICU conducting a study on brain activity in end-of-life patients. She had permission from our hospital ethics board to use experimental high-resolution EEG equipment to record brain activity that standard hospital EEGs might miss. Her research focused on whether consciousness persists in ways our conventional tests can't detect. She approached me at 11:18 p.m., asked if she could attach her research-grade EEG to Thomas during the organ procurement process. Just for science, she said, to see if there's anything our standard tests are missing. It won't interfere with the donation, won't delay anything. Just 20 additional electrode contacts, 10 extra minutes of setup. I almost said no, seemed unnecessary. Thomas was brain dead. What was there to find? But Dr. Chen had IRB approval. The family had consented to participate in research studies. And honestly, I thought it might provide useful data to help other patients. So I agreed. Dr. Chen's team attached the high-resolution EEG array at 11:22 p.m., 64 channels instead of the standard 16, capable of detecting much deeper, subtler brain frequencies. She started recording. We proceeded with the organ procurement protocol. At 11:25 p.m., the surgical team arrived. The organ procurement organization had already identified recipients. Thomas's heart was matched to a 52-year-old woman in Portland with end-stage cardiomyopathy. His lungs to a 43-year-old man in Vancouver with pulmonary fibrosis. His liver to a 29-year-old mother of 2 in Sacramento with acute liver failure. His kidneys to 2 patients in Seattle. 5 lives could be saved. That knowledge helps. In these moments, it helps to know death will create life. We moved Thomas to the operating room at 11:30 p.m. Rebecca wanted to say goodbye one more time. She held his hand, kissed his forehead, told him she loved him, told him thank you for being the kind of person who'd want to help people, even in death. Dr. Chen's EEG equipment stayed attached, recording continuously. The procurement surgery began at 11:35 p.m., standard protocol. The surgical team works with incredible precision and respect. They're not just harvesting organs, they're honoring a person's final gift. I stayed in the OR. Not required, but I always do for my patients. And I watched the monitors. Heart rate steady at 85, maintained by the ventilator and medications. Blood pressure stable. And Dr. Chen's high-resolution EEG, scrolling across her laptop screen in the corner. Still flat. Still showing nothing. Just like our hospital EEG had shown. I remember thinking, see, brain dead means brain dead. No hidden consciousness, no mystery, just the end. The procurement took 47 minutes. At 11:47 p.m., the team had successfully recovered Thomas's heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, and pancreas, all in excellent condition, ready to save 5 lives. The ventilator was discontinued. Thomas's heart, now removed and preserved in ice, would be in Portland within 2 hours. The person who was Thomas Reed was gone. But his gift would let 5 people see tomorrow. That's what I believed. That's what everyone in that room believed. We were wrong. 3 days later, November 10th, Dr. Sarah Chen called me at 2 p.m. Her voice was shaking. Michael, I need you to come to my lab. Now, there's something in Thomas Reed's EEG data that I can't explain. Something that shouldn't be possible. I walked to her research lab at the university. She had 3 monitors displaying different views of the EEG recording. Her hands were shaking as she pulled up the data. Look at this, she said. This is the standard 16-channel hospital EEG from Thomas's brain death examination at 11 p.m. Completely flat. Zero activity. This is what you based your declaration on. I nodded. That's what I'd seen. Flat. Dead. Now look at this, she said. She pulled up her 64-channel high-resolution EEG, starting from 11:15 p.m., the moment I declared brain death. For the first few minutes, it looked the same. Flat. No activity. Okay, I said. So your equipment confirms brain death. What's the problem? Dr. Chen's face was pale. Wait, she said. She scrolled forward to 11:20 p.m. And suddenly, the lines weren't flat anymore. They were showing waves. Small, deep frequency, but unmistakably present. Theta waves, 4 to 7 hertz. The frequency associated with deep meditation, dreaming, and conscious thought processing. I stared at the screen. That's not possible. He was brain dead. Your equipment must be picking up artifact. Electrical interference from the OR. Dr. Chen shook her head. That's what I thought. I've spent 3 days ruling out every possible source of artifact. I've analyzed the data 6 different ways. It's not artifact, Michael, it's real brain activity. And look when it starts. She zoomed in on the timeline. The theta waves appeared at 11:20 p.m., exactly 5 minutes after I declared brain death. And they continued. 11:25, 11:30, 11:35. Still there. Still showing activity. Conscious level activity. While we were in the OR, while the surgical team was preparing for organ procurement, while Rebecca was saying goodbye. When do they stop? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Dr. Chen scrolled forward. The theta waves continued through the entire procurement surgery. 11:40, 11:45. And then, at 11:47 p.m., they stopped. Flatlined. Gone. Exactly the moment the procurement was completed. Exactly the moment Thomas's heart was removed from his chest. For 32 minutes after I declared him brain dead, Thomas Reed's brain was generating electrical activity consistent with conscious awareness. Not just random firing. Organized theta waves. The kind associated with active thought. With consciousness. With being aware. Dr. Chen published her findings in the Journal of Neuroscience 3 months later. Peer-reviewed. Verified. The paper is titled, Evidence of Persistent Theta Band Activity Following Clinical Brain Death Declaration, Implications for Consciousness Detection, and Organ Donation Protocols. It sparked international debate. Because if Thomas was generating conscious-level brain activity for 32 minutes after being declared brain dead, the question becomes unbearable. Was he aware? Could he hear us? Could he feel? Was he screaming inside a body we'd declared empty? The medical explanation is this. Standard hospital EEGs use 16 electrodes and can only detect activity in the outer layers of the brain, the cortex. They miss deeper structures, miss subtler frequencies. Dr. Chen's 64-channel research, EEG, could detect activity in the thalamus, the hippocampus, the deeper regions associated with consciousness. Thomas's outer brain was dead, destroyed by the stroke, but something in his deeper brain structures was still firing, still processing. For 32 minutes. Until his heart was removed, until the last blood flow stopped, until true, complete death. We don't know if he was aware. We can't know. Theta waves indicate the brain is capable of processing information, but we don't know if that translates to subjective experience, to awareness, to the horror of being trapped in a body declared dead, unable to move or speak or scream as surgical instruments approach. It's the nightmare version of locked-in syndrome. Conscious but completely powerless. And if Thomas was aware, he experienced something no one should ever experience. He heard me tell his wife he was gone. He felt her kiss goodbye. He experienced the surgical team discussing his organs like parts being harvested from a machine. And he knew. He knew what was happening. And he couldn't stop it. The case has changed protocols at 17 major medical centers. They now require dual EEG verification using high-resolution equipment before declaring brain death in organ donation cases. They wait 15 minutes after the last signs of electrical activity before beginning procurement. They monitor continuously during the process. Because Dr. Chen's research proved that our standard tests are not enough. That brain death is more complicated than we thought. That consciousness might persist in ways we cannot measure with conventional tools. Thomas Reed saved 5 lives. His heart beats in Portland. His lungs breathe in Vancouver. His liver functions in Sacramento. His kidneys filter in Seattle. 5 people are alive because of his gift. That's real. That's beautiful. But the question remains, haunting and unanswerable. For 32 minutes, as we prepared to take those organs, was Thomas aware? Was he there, conscious, trapped, unable to tell us he could still think, still feel, still fear? I declared him dead at 11:15 p.m. The EEG showed organized brain activity until 11:47 p.m., 32 minutes. We'll never know what he experienced in those minutes. But his case changed medicine forever. Because sometimes, death isn't as clear as we think. Sometimes, the line between alive and dead is blurred. And sometimes, our tests aren't good enough to see what's really there. If this case made you question everything we think we know about death and consciousness, please subscribe and share this video. Comment below. Should we require advanced EEG monitoring for all brain death declarations? Should we wait longer before organ procurement? These are questions medicine is wrestling with right now, thanks to Thomas Reed. I'm Dr. Michael, and I'll never forget the patient whose brain kept thinking long after I declared him dead. Thank you for watching. And remember, question everything, even death itself.